We've made it through the first month of 2024, so today I'm going to stop and rank all 6 January new movies that I saw from the worst to the best. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comments section. Share your ranking of the new January movies that you saw, and if I missed a movie that you think I would like, let me know about it down below. One quick announcement, I will be at Megacon this weekend. That'll be February 1st through the 4th. It's in Orlando, Florida. I'm a part of 6 different panels. We'll have meet and greets all 4 days, being joined by a bunch of my YouTube friends, Cody, Leach, Adam Talks Movies, Film Stock, Holden, Hardman. We've even got Joey Sasso, who is an actor, filmmaker, and starred in a couple of Netflix reality shows. It's going to be an absolute blast. I would love to meet you there. The details are down below in the description, and let's get started. In last, Mean Girls. This is the film adaptation of the Broadway adaptation of the film adaptation of a book. And for all the adapting that went on here, I don't feel like they did the right adaptations to bring it into the 2020s in this particular format. I can respect that they felt they had a new twist on it by adapting the musical into a film. That is something new and different, but the execution itself simply did not work for me. And the big problem in my mind is that essentially they're working off the same structure, the same script, with the same beats, a lot of the same quotes, a lot of the same jokes, and it's structured the same way. Musicals, the advantage of a musical is there's unique ways in which through song you reveal what characters are thinking, what they desire, what holds them back, their dynamics with other people. And if you just take a script for a movie that doesn't need that, it worked on its own, we understood the characters on their own, and you don't adapt it to the new format, it just feels like we're mashing songs into a film that doesn't need it. And there's points in time in this version where the songs distract from things that are more important. In particular, the big dramatic event that happens after the assembly. If you haven't seen the movie, I don't want to spoil it for you. They do a musical number that transitions from the assembly to the shocking event. But the most important character, the most important dynamics in that moment, it's not the musical number. The musical number doesn't serve this hugely important conflict between two characters and shocking thing that happens. And so it almost distracts from what actually matters. Other points in time, because you're just throwing in a song somewhere, it slows down the progression of the plot of the film in a number of ways. So that, it just didn't work for me with the way that they did this. Along those exact same lines, it doesn't feel like they brought it into the 2020s, where when you have something like Mean Girls that's so intended to comment on high school politics, the ways that people are, way that girls mistreat each other, gossip about each other, and you bring it into a new decade, there's so many different dynamics at play with teenagers now that weren't there 20 years ago. And given that Tina Fey is credited for writing this script, she's credited for writing the original script, and she graduated from high school in the 80s. And you just think, I think they probably needed some fresh blood to come in and adjust this more, to bring it in, adapt it into the 2020s, adapt it to being a musical. And because they didn't do that, because it is hitting so many of the same notes, because they do keep saying the same lines.
Get in, loser.
Stop trying to make fetch happen. Like all of that stuff, you just make immediate comparisons. And maybe this set of actresses will go on to be the next list of A-listers, but at face value, the side character from Spider-Man No Way Home, or the Spider-Man trilogy, is not nearly as famous as Lindsay Lohan was 20 years ago. She was like a massive childhood star, teenage heartthrob or whatever, and then she does Mean Girls. The 8th billed person in the Spider-Man films is not that. And then with time, several of our other Mean Girls have gone on to be gigantic actresses. Of course, Rachel McAdams. And so you just feel like you're seeing kind of the poor man's version of, or discount version of, this iconic high school film. So, I mean, it's watchable enough, but I don't think it was very good. Number 5, The Book of Clarence. This is an odd one, where I found it thought-provoking. At times, it could be emotionally moving. Parts of it made me laugh out loud, but it's a film where I just simply don't understand exactly what they were trying to do here. So the basic setup of the film is that the twin brother of Doubting Thomas from Jesus' disciples, Doubting Thomas, his twin brother, and I actually don't like the term Doubting Thomas because all of the disciples doubted and needed to see to believe. But anyway, that's a sidetrack. Doubting Thomas's twin brother doesn't believe in Jesus' miracles or anything like that. He gets himself into trouble, and he sees how successful Jesus and the disciples have been, so he decides to be a false prophet and be a fake Jesus. And through the journey of this, he starts to understand himself better, starts to believe more. And I went into it assuming I was going to be offended because it was going to be blasphemous. It's surprisingly not that blasphemous, but it is heretical in the sense that it's actually very much supports, it's very much praises Jesus, never actually criticizes Jesus, but built into it is it's a Gnosticism. It's based off these Gnostic gospels, these other writings that aren't the canonical Bible. And whether little anecdotes in there, even what Clarence is teaching, his difference between faith and knowledge, that's Gnosticism. Gnost, that's what it means. And so it's very fascinating. It actually made me want to research the writer-director, understand his belief system. Is he Gnostic? Is this just what he found interesting to have a different spin on it? What exactly was going on with all of this? But at the end of the day, I just don't understand exactly what the director was going for. Because at parts at the beginning of the movie, you've got people sitting there smoking weed, and then they start floating above their chairs into dream mode, and then Clarence has an idea, and a light bulb forms above his head, and then later in the film, he's tortured and crucified with dramatic music playing. That is, for people of faith, of the Christian faith, that is profound imagery. That is very potent stuff in a movie where people smoke weed and start floating. And I just don't know why. So I think it had some things to offer that were entertaining or emotionally moving. I don't know what I was supposed to take away from it. And when you're using such potent imagery that is sacred to people of faith, I get confused. In fourth, One More Shot. This is the latest Scott Adkins action film. It is a sequel to the movie One Shot, which I actually haven't seen. It's a direct sequel to that film. And despite having not seen the first movie, I was able to track along with this film just fine, though I'm pretty sure I spoiled some stuff that happens in the first film. Essentially, the gimmick with the one-shot movies is that they're designed to feel like one shot. They're edited to feel like one continuous shot throughout the runtime of the story. And the plot is essentially about Scott Adkins trying to keep someone alive while trying to track down while terrorists are attacking. They want to stop the bomb from going off. If you've ever seen the show 24, it's 24 with Scott Adkins at an airport. That is exactly what this movie is, with the gimmick of it being just one shot, not just in real time, but just one shot. And because of the gimmick, it does give it its kind of own unique experience where you just feel you're there. It gives an urgency to everything that's taking place. You feel like you're in the action, fly on the wall. Also, though, it does feel a little bit like you're doing a third-person shooter where you're watching someone video game mode, and it's like a stealth game because a lot of times he's hiding behind something, waits till the person turns the corner, and then chokes him out or whatever. And so it feels like a stealth game. Other times it feels like a shooter, but we're in third-person mode watching all of it take place. And for some people, that won't work for them. Others, it's just something a little bit different. Something new for the action genre. Now, I like direct-to-video action movies. I like Scott Adkin movies a lot of the time, not always. And I love 24, so when you kind of combined all those together, I think this one is a slightly above average Scott Adkins action film. There are some things that there are consequences to doing it all in one take. A lot of the performances, a little bit clunky. A lot of the characters talk like NPCs in a video game. You kind of have to force the geography of the story to be able to transition between the good guys and the bad guys and what's going on. And so you'll have like a gunfight in this room, in the room next door, people don't hear the gunfight. Like there's some stuff like that you have to be able to accept those conceits, that you're not going to be bothered by that to enjoy this film. I enjoyed the novelty of everything going on, and I like this sort of thing, so I had fun with it. But, if you're looking for, what's the best action movie of the year, it's probably not gonna be One Shot. It's not even the best action movie in January. Third, Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1. This is the first movie in a 3-part series adapting the Crisis on Infinite Earths comic book run from the 1980s. It is part of the current continuity of DC animated films. I'm not as familiar with this one. I've watched a couple of them, but I haven't kept up with it to be able to appreciate the references or these versions of the characters. But because it is such an iconic comic book run, I was curious to check it out. And I felt like it was a movie that got better as it went along. So in the first part of the film, it's kind of tracking the Flash as something funky's going on with him, and he's skipping around, and it's showing us all these important things in his life. And it's pretty chaotic. It's supposed to be chaotic. That's the vibe it's supposed to be in what he's experiencing. But perhaps if I was more plugged into this continuity, it would have worked a little bit better for me, but pretty wild and chaotic. And as it went along, and especially as you moved into the back half and the plot emerges, Flash's role in everything becomes more apparent, and it starts giving meaning to all these chaotic images that we've been seeing and how they're a pivotal piece in the journey that we're on. It started to work a lot better for me. And by the end of it, I was actually quite surprised at how emotionally resonant some of the beats are in the film, where they actually make you care about Flash and Iris and some things in ways I wasn't really expecting. Having seen many Flash stories before, many Flash stories before, they found something kind of different in there that tied into the lore of everything kind of going on and trying to save all these infinite Earths. And so the back half I thought got quite good. First half, I almost wanted to start over as soon as I finished it to see okay, now that I know where this is headed, let me see how I respond to it if I go back to the beginning and watch it again. Another thing to talk about, I don't really like the animation style of this particular run of DC animated films that they're doing. It's one of the reasons I don't watch very many of them. I just don't care for the style. I just don't like it. And it looks cheap and it doesn't look interesting to me. So that's something to bring up. Like I said, since it ended on a high note, it left me excited to see the next 2 parts. Our runner-up, Fighter. To oversimplify things, Bollywood's Top Gun. There's a ton of Top Gun influence in this film, but it does have its own things that it does bring to the table. But central plot line, you have this pilot that he's the best pilot, but he plays by his own rules, and so he pushes against authority like Maverick. You have a love interest in him riding on a motorcycle, the aviators, iconic Top Gun imagery. But, of course, being that it's a Bollywood film, it has such a different energy to it, a liveliness to it, an earnestness to it, and multiple dance numbers thrown in as well. But it was a movie that, because Top Gun Maverick are just so iconic in the jet genre, they're just kind of the always the point of reference. It's that's the one that's out there. That's it. That's what we have. And I think it's fine to have more movies in the genre, even if they're a little bit derivative, even if they're hitting a couple of the same plot beats. Did you make something fun? Did they make something fun? Yeah, they did. Were the movie stars fun and charismatic? Yeah. Where's there some wild action sequences and wacky stuff they did? Yeah. And it put a big grin on my face. So, and they put some different ingredients in here with helicopters, there's ground battles, there's machine gun fights, there's a bunch of other things that happen in here too besides just the jet fighter stuff. So for me, I have fun. But coming in at number 1, The Beekeeper. This is a total throwback action B movie filled with unbelievable Jason Statham action. And it's very much in the vein of many other Jason Statham films that we've seen before, but it's just a better version of it. It's like the one that I see myself going back to. When I'm in the mood for Jason Statham action, this is what I want. This one delivers more than most of them. Basic setup, there's some people in power who misbehave, and we need the beekeeper.
A beekeeper, a beekeeper? Well, that's not good.
To make them feel his sting, to put them back in their places. But yeah, we've seen this movie before about the retired person with a set of skills who returns to right wrongs. It's not going to be for everyone. If you need something fresh, new, and different from your action movies, that's not what this is. This is not what this is set out to do. This is not like this year's John Wick by any means. It's a genre film for action movie fans. And if that's you want to check this one out. This movie was very much my thing. Delivered exactly what I wanted it to deliver. Jason Statham is doing the same thing he's done many times before, as the tough guy that doesn't talk a lot, that, mugs at the camera, but he's really good at it. That's why we like it when he does that. So, all of that worked for me. It kind of builds out this lore of the world and these organizations and these conspiracies and stuff. And as the movie goes along, you feel the world getting bigger and the stakes and scope and size. And even maybe that's one of the reasons why it's just a little bit more satisfying than some other ones, because it's able to deliver on a grander scale. But like I said, it's a genre film. It's familiar. If you're not a big action movie person, this is not the one that's going to win you over. If you're not a big Jason Statham fan, this is not the movie that's going to win you over. However, if you like this type of action thriller, it delivers everything that you want. This is very much my jar of honey. And from beginning to end, I had an absolute blast with it. And so, not a lot of competition in this January, but it comes in at number 1 for me. Remember, I'm going to be at Megacon this weekend, all 4 days, February 1st through the 4th, leading panels, doing live recordings of videos that will be posted on my channel, some videos that will be posted on Cody Leach's channel, one that will be posted on Filmstock's channel. We'd love to meet you. Come on out. Details are down below in the description.